The movie opens in ancient Egypt, where Princess Ahmanet, the daughter of Pharaoh Meneptah, is groomed to inherit her father's throne. She's a highly trained warrior and ambitious leader, expected to follow in her father's footsteps. However, her life takes a dramatic turn when her father's new queen bears him a son. Ahmanet, once the undisputed heir, now faces a future of insignificance, as her younger brother becomes the new heir to Egypt's throne. Enraged by this betrayal, Ahmanet turns to dark magic. She pledges herself to Set, the god of death, in exchange for power. Driven by fury, she murders her family, aiming to fulfill a ritual that would allow Set to enter the mortal world through a human vessel, her chosen lover, whom she intends to sacrifice. Yet, before she can complete the ritual, Ahmanet is captured by Egyptian priests, who entomb her alive. Her sarcophagus is sealed and buried far from Egypt, cursed to remain hidden forever beneath the sands. Fast forward to modern-day Iraq, where we meet Nick Morton, Tom Cruise, a soldier of fortune who exploits his military assignments to hunt for valuable antiquities. Nick and his reluctant partner, Chris Vale, have stumbled upon what they believe to be a profitable artifact. However, things go awry when they're spotted by insurgents. A chaotic firefight ensues, and as they try to escape, a missile strike opens up a hidden underground chamber, Ahmanet's prison. Curious and tempted by the promise of treasure, Nick contacts Jenny Halsey, an archaeologist who works for Prodigium, an organization dedicated to understanding and controlling supernatural forces. Jenny arrives at the site and quickly recognizes the significance of the tomb. She notes the chains and warnings surrounding Ahmanet's sarcophagus, emphasizing that it was more of a prison than a final resting place. However, Nick, driven by greed and ambition, ignores Jenny's warnings and decides to transport the sarcophagus back to London, convinced they've stumbled upon an artifact worth a fortune. As the sarcophagus is being lifted out of the tomb, strange events begin to unfold. Nick starts experiencing visions of Ahmanet, who appears to him as a beautiful yet terrifying figure, beckoning him closer. These visions leave him shaken, but he brushes them off, focusing instead on the potential riches awaiting him. During their flight back to London, the situation takes a deadly turn. Vale, who was bitten by a spider in the tomb, starts behaving erratically, warning Nick that something isn't right. He becomes increasingly violent, eventually attacking Nick and the other passengers, forcing Nick to defend himself. Amid the chaos, Nick realizes that Vale is under some kind of curse, connected to Ahmanet. The situation escalates as supernatural forces cause the plane to crash. In a final act of bravery, Nick hands Jenny the only parachute, sacrificing himself to save her life. The plane crashes, killing everyone on board. Nick, however, awakens in a London morgue, completely unscathed. Confused and haunted by visions of Ahmanet, he learns that he has been chosen as her vessel, the one who will bring Set into the mortal world. Horrified, he begins to understand the gravity of his actions and the curse he has unleashed. Ahmanet, now free from her prison, begins to regenerate her powers by draining the life from innocent bystanders, transforming them into her undead minions. As she regains strength, she relentlessly pursues Nick, desperate to complete the ritual that will unite her with Set. Nick finds himself unable to resist her pull entirely, haunted by visions of a life where he could rule by her side, wielding immense power. Jenny introduces Nick to Dr. Henry Jekyll, the enigmatic leader of Prodigium. Jekyll, who battles his own dark side in the form of the monstrous Hyde, explains the nature of Ahmanet's curse and her connection to Set, urging Nick to resist the ancient goddess's influence. Jekyll sees Nick as Prodigium's best chance of stopping Ahmanet, but he is also aware of the dangers Nick poses if he succumbs to Set's influence. Ahmanet's power continues to grow as she brings her undead minions to life, wreaking havoc on the streets of London. In a spectacular display of her abilities, she unleashes a sandstorm over the city, engulfing buildings and landmarks, showing the world her unstoppable wrath. Prodigium's forces attempt to contain her, but they are no match for her supernatural strength. Nick and Jenny narrowly escape her clutches, but the toll on them is immense. Nick feels himself slipping further under her control, the lines between his own will and her influence blurring. Desperate for a solution, Nick and Jenny return to Prodigium's headquarters, where Jekyll reveals his ultimate plan, he intends to kill Nick, believing it to be the only way to stop Ahmanet. Nick resists, hoping there's another way, but Jekyll's darker side, Hyde, begins to emerge. In a tense confrontation, Nick must battle Hyde, narrowly escaping from Prodigium's base as it descends into chaos. He realizes that he's running out of time and that Ahmanet will not stop until she possesses him entirely. With nowhere left to hide, Nick faces Ahmanet in a final showdown within a hidden crypt beneath London. The ritual dagger that Ahmanet intended to use in her original ceremony has been recovered, and she plans to use it to complete the ritual, summoning Set through Nick. Tied down and defenseless, Nick is on the verge of surrendering to her power, drawn in by the visions she shows him of the life they could share, ruling the world together. In a last, desperate attempt to save himself and humanity, Nick manages to free himself, taking hold of the ritual dagger. Rather than let Ahmanet complete her plan, he makes a daring choice. He stabs himself with the dagger, allowing Set's essence to enter him. This decision grants him the power he needs to resist Ahmanet's influence, but it comes at a price. Set's power fills Nick, changing him into a hybrid of man and God, a being with unparalleled strength but a dark, dangerous nature. Using his newfound powers, Nick battles Ahmanet, overpowering her and trapping her spirit. Though he has saved the world from her wrath, he is now cursed to live with Set's darkness within him. He knows he can no longer live a normal life, as the god of death now resides inside him. Yet, despite this burden, he manages to retain a sliver of humanity, resisting Set's urge to destroy. In an emotional farewell, Nick revives his friend Vale, who was killed earlier in the film under Ahmanet's curse. Together, they disappear into the desert, where Nick becomes a myth himself, a man trapped between good and evil, life and death. Now, he roams the world, hoping to find a way to control the dark powers within him and perhaps even use them to fight other supernatural threats that Prodigium can't handle alone. He is both hero and monster, an immortal man in exile, forever changed by his encounter with the mummy. The final shot hints at his inner conflict, as he rides off into the unknown with Vale by his side, bound to a future where he will always be hunted by both mankind and the supernatural world.